Today we are going to talk a little bit about the woman, and I think Yuri was very clear on the economic and political situation in Uzbekistan. So let me share my screen because I will be giving some pictures. So do you see the presentation? Is that?
Yes.
All is fine? Okay. So let's move. So here is the map. So you have already seen a couple of different types of map. Frankly speaking, of course, gender agenda was not very popular in Uzbekistan until 2017, in my opinion. If you can see, Tashkent is very moderate because it's a capital city. The rest of the part of Uzbekistan is moderate, but certain rights are limited, and gender stereotypes are very much prevailing, especially when you talk about the Fergana Valley, where conservative society is still existing and still preserving and dominating in the society, while the rest of the part of Uzbekistan is more or less moderate, and they are gender aware, I think. So if you see women in Uzbekistan usually preserved as a symbol of a family. So woman has to be a beautiful wife, daughter-in-law, daughter, sister, mother, and everything that, of course, I don't know, medieval woman has to be. But if you look to the political and legal landscape, you see that Uzbekistan is a member of the UN Committee on Women's Rights, CEDAW, since 1995. We have ratified this convention, and last time we provided our periodic review last year in 2019. We also have a Mahala committee. So it's like a community-based a gathering of the people. It's very traditional. It has been developed for years or maybe centuries. It's not like the organization, but after the collapse of Soviet Union and Uzbekistan became independent, Mahala became an institution, and now it's kind of a part of local authority, which has unlimited rights and unlimited power, in my opinion, and it sometimes is very much shaping the mentality, as they say. But in the legal landscape, we don't understand what is the mentality, because it's very complicated when you are talking about intangible things. So then we had also Women Committee of Uzbekistan, which was also a government-led NGO, which and it was obliged and, I don't know, mandated to shape the gender agenda in Uzbekistan. However, this year in February 2020, government decided to establish new ministry on Mahala and Family Affairs, and Women Committee of Uzbekistan was dissolved. The same happened with Oila, which is a family center. They also was created in 2018 under the cabinet of Ministry of Uzbekistan, but to be honest, I didn't understand the center, but yeah, they were dissolved as well. But crucial point in Uzbekistan in gender policy, in my opinion, has happened last year in September, when two main laws has been adopted by the parliament, which is law on gender equality of men and women, and another is law on protection of women from violence and oppression. To frankly speaking, we never had and still do not have the domestic violence as a criminal offense in the criminal code. So it's pretty much about the police and police officers who will be dealing with the domestic violence, and it's not criminalized. But however, after this September law of last year, now there's legal mechanisms of protecting women and telling that women is under the protection of the government. If we look to the women in politics, which is my favorite part, I will show you a couple of pictures that probably some of them you have seen in the media, maybe you have not seen, but you will get the familiar. So we have many women, of course, in the politics, but there are few that can be mentioned because they have some sort of political weight in the country. So one, of course, it was the oldest daughter of the former President Gulnara Karimova. She was our first ambassador to Spain from Uzbekistan. And then Lola Karimova, which is the second daughter of the former president, and she was head of UNESCO and not UNESCO, but a representative of Uzbekistan to UNESCO in Paris. And now, you know, probably you have heard about the history of the first daughter of the president and the second. She's a chair of foundation under after the name of first president, and they're doing they're providing a scholarship to students in science, technology, and different areas. In current politics, we have Saida Mirziyoyeva, who is the oldest daughter of our current president. She used to be in official agency for mass media, but then she decided to quit, and now she is chairing a foundation for protection of journalists and bloggers. And the second daughter, Shahnaza Mirziyoyeva, is head of the department in the Ministry of Preschool Education in Uzbekistan, and she's dealing, I mean, this ministry is dealing with the preschool education in the country, and it's also a new ministry that has been established in 2018 or 17 maybe. Then we have another powerful figures, which is Tanzila Narbayeva. She's my favorite, to be honest. She used to work in the cabinet of ministers. Then she was in Federation of the Trade Union. She was a head, and to be frankly speaking, she was one of the first people in the country who led the third-party monitoring, which is the powerful cotton campaign since 2015. She was heading the and led the work in stopping the child and forced labor in the country. Then she became the vice prime minister, first ever woman in the country. And now she's a chairperson of the Senate, which is the upper chamber of the parliament in Uzbekistan. Parliament is called Oli Majlis. We have bicameral parliament, upper parliament, Senate. It's chaired by Tanzila Narbayeva, and she's actually a very strong woman. And then we have Elmira Basitxhanova. Now she is currently with the Ministry of Mahala and Family Affairs, but used to be in the Women Committee. Will not say anything bad toward her and wish her good luck and good health. Then we have Svetlana Artikova. She was vice speaker of the lower chamber of the parliament, and now she's a deputy PGO, Prosecutor General Officer, and she's a very powerful lawyer as well, and she's driving this law enforcement agencies, and she's reforming it, and she's doing very well on that. And next person is Firuza Mahmudova. Recently, a few weeks ago, she was appointed as ambassador to Israel from Uzbekistan, and she's the second and the only female ambassador currently of Uzbekistan to another countries. Now, another very powerful figure is First Lady. You see her here. I think, and with my colleagues and friends, we're also doing a research currently, and we think that the institution of the First Lady will be one of the powerful media campaigns or media figures that could also empower women in the country, and this could also give a chance to lift up women. If you can see, I don't know if you have heard or not, in May 1, there was a Sardoba dam burst in Uzbekistan. It's another shocking news after the coronavirus. And First Lady visited this region, which is in Sirdarya region. And when she visited, everyone was lifted up, especially women and children. They were so motivated by the visit of the First Lady. And I think this should be institutionally implemented in the country. I don't know how long will it take, but I do believe that this will happen. And if we move to the parliament, so this is a beautiful building of our parliament, and then this is the inside the building. And here are a few of the figures. So in 2000, every 5 years we have elections. In 2014 election, there were 24 women and 126 men. We have 150 members of the parliament. They're elected. And in 2019, last year, December election, we had 48 women and 102 men. Of course, in Uzbekistan, it's very good shift toward the women empowerment. And if you can see the picture, you see we have 5 political parties registered in Uzbekistan. Green is for Green Party, yellow is for Uzbek Liberal Democracy Party, which is the president's party, leading party. And then we have white one, which is Milit Kilanish, called like national upbringing or whatever. And then we have red party, which is Adolat, it's a justice party. And then the blue one, Halk Democratic Party, which is the National Democratic Party. And now we move to women in social life. So there is a very good movement which calls, and then a project which calls Technovation. I think next speaker, Saida, will be also maybe briefly touched about it, because she's one of the founders. And this is great. A project which is helping girls in STEM and in technology show their abilities. And then we also have Nafisa Muminova, who is the woman leader in chess, and she also established the Sky Chess club for educating girls in Tashkent. And of course our hero is Oksana Chusovitsina, who is the Olympic hero, woman hero. However, even if we say that much things are happening and gender policy and gender is becoming one of the mainstream in the politics, we still have very big issues in society. We still have gender stereotypes. For example, we have a victim blaming still happening. We have a social pressure that girls after 18 or 17, they have to get married. After the marriage, they immediately have to have 1 or 2 children and should stay at home. We also have abuse of authority in the work, because we see that the discrimination is still happening, and most young girls are not accepted at the work because they preserve that they will get married, they will have children, babies, and they will usually not working well, and etc. And also we have a domestic violence. It's very common, becoming very common, but after this law adopted last year, we see that security orders has been issued by the police officers. Some shifts are happening, but still domestic violence becoming one of the main issues, especially during the COVID, because it's not the problem only of Uzbekistan, domestic violence during the COVID, but it's very global. And also indifference. So for example, today there was a very huge discussion on Facebook about the case of a young lady. She was 17 years old. It's a child. And then she was raped constantly, and then by the man who had a family. And then they in order not to have a scandal, they decided to marry her to this guy. And after the marriage, of course it was not official marriage, but it was by nikah and etc. After a few days she decided to kill herself and suicide, so she died. Now the criminal case is open by the court, and huge scandal in the society is you know, discussing and telling who is to blame for, parents or the society or the man, or what to do, how to deal with that. And then we have a beautiful project which calls Nimalchi Uz, which means do not keep silent. This is led by femme activists, and they are usually covering domestic case domestic cases, and then they're following with the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the police, the PGOs, and etc. So it's very important project in the country that openly speak about the gender issues, discrimination issues in the society. I can talk about it more, but I think it's not the main topic, but this is the issues that we have, that we face in Uzbekistan as a part of the gender politics in the country. And then just to finish, I know that my time is up. I would like to show beautiful pictures of one of the famous photographers in Uzbekistan, which name is Ernest Kutvaliyev. Everyone preserves us as this young lady who has the beautiful national dress and serving with the beautiful dishes and delicious dishes. However, we also have a woman who wears the hat, who wears the men coat, and also change the society. So if you have any questions, I will be more than happy to discuss and tell you more about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilfuza. It's a very interesting, I would say, picture, but also very controversial. Yes? And I think your presentation gave very deep insights, and it also provoked a lot of questions. And I don't know whether we will manage to take all the questions, but I will try to start with maybe some direct questions, which are addressing exactly the things you mentioned. For instance, one anonymous visitor is asking, do you think Mirziyoyev's daughters can act free from their father's politics? Or do you think his politics and his position influence their actions? Or do they even take advantage of that? And also in the same direction, maybe you can ask both together. And the second question is society or media taking an extra look at the behavior of women in a high position, except from their political actions, like how they behave and as a daughters, wives, like as they would not do something similar to men? So I would say these are the two questions we can take first.
Thank you so much. Yeah, well, I'm not the person who can judge if the first family has to deal with what the father says and etc. But what we see and what we observe is that, of course, they do take advantage that their father is a president of Uzbekistan. I think this also plays a crucial role when people are talking to the daughters of the president or father or sons-in-law, of course, but I think they also in good position to use it, not to overuse overuse the power, but use as a powerful political tool to push forward the different agenda that are not under the radar of the big politics. For example, the bright example is the bloggers and journalists. We have never had the freedom of media or freedom of speech. You know, it was always a big issue. But once she became a member of this NGO like foundation to protect the journalists and bloggers became one of the free-speaking people in the country. Now the telegram is lift up and everything happens to the journalists. They can freely call, not to call, maybe write on Twitter, on social media to her, for example, and they can get the protection. The couple of years ago also happened, one of the journalists did not get the passport. You know, we had an issue with the internal and external passports, and he didn't get the passport, so he called, he wrote, and I remember that this it was not the foundation, but she was in the Uzbek media agency, but the agency was protecting this journalist, and they provided a passport to this journalist because of the protection. So I cannot say that it's bad or good, but in somehow, of course, the political status of the family is affecting. They are using it, but how they use, this is a big question. And regarding another question, of course, in my personal opinion, it should not be the case when the woman in the politics should be judged how she's dealing with the family, is she cooking or not. But I do confirmed that people are overlooking at that. I remember there was a last year beautiful interview of Madame Narbaeva, and in her interview, the journalist asked, "Does she cook at home?" I know that this woman is 24 hours online. I work with her, and I know that she's not sleeping at all because she's a firm and very strong woman. I don't know if she's cooking at home in real life, but in interview she said, "Of course I'm cooking, I'm going home, I'm cleaning my house," and etc. And I think it was the message that, of course, people are judging, and they're expecting if the woman having a high position in the country or in politics, they still have to be good wives, wonderful mother, daughters, neighbors, and etc.
Thank you very much, Dilfuza. I think you also answered the question, because there was a question whether do you think women in official functions would change gender stereotypes or social pressure against women. I think this question is partially answered. So I would go to the question of perception. And Christina Rick from Zoom is asking, how are single mothers perceived in society? So how society sees them?
It's very controversial. It depends from the region to region, but generally it's not the good, but it's not the best image of the woman be not single mother. Of course, it depends on how single mother is, because she's a widow or because she's divorced. If she's divorced, then of course it's not the good image of the woman. So, and the Mahala committee, as I was mentioning, usually they try to preserve the family and say, "Hey, do you want to be a single mother in the society, or do you want people with pointing you that you are not married or having a child without the official marriage," and etc. So these ladies, mostly ladies, are working in Mahala committee. They usually trying to preserve the family or preserve that women cannot have another life without a man and having a children. So maybe in Tashkent is not very big issue, but for example in Fergana Valley or different regions, it can be huge scandal of that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. I think another topic is opening, and the question is about the change. And Pia in Zoom is writing, in the talk before we had heard that there are very limited possibilities of participation of the people. How is the construction of sexism is possible without political influence of feminist movements, young people, other laws, and a sign for political change?
Actually, thank you very much for the question. The thing that we're talking about it now, the thing that we have femme activists, that we have projects, beautiful projects. We have a special committee under the Senate, and Madame Narbaeva is chairing this committee as well. This is a huge shift. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, you have never even a question about it. You could not even say that you have domestic violence in your family, because everyone would say you are the one who is to blame for. So I think yes, it's changing. We still need the time. 5 or 4 years, it's not a big time limit that we can have a shift, but we see that discussions are happening. Laws are enabling, and of course it's very difficult to register NGO in Uzbekistan, but still possible. And we also have international organizations who are helping and fundraising, for example, or movement. But of course we cannot make a march. I never seen that Uzbekistan had a femme march, for example, but I know that certain actions can be done, but I really, really hope that it will move forward in the future.
Thank you very much. I think this what you are saying gives hope, and I also perceives this very sensitive question and one of the important questions of, I think, each society, yeah, and especially Uzbek society. So, I mean, my last question would be, what do you think are the good ingredients of non-judgmental, sustainable change of this system, which is sometimes very violent, I would say? You mentioned a lot of laws, but what is needed besides this? Maybe men, brave men. So maybe you have you made a lot of thoughts on this. Dilfuza, would you share some of them? Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, today we talked with Yuri as well on the case that happened recently with this young lady. And a couple of days ago, we also had another scandal that a girl was beaten up by the boy because she wore shorts, you know, just simple shorts, and it was not acceptable in the society. What I think is needed is a good, independent justice system. When we have a justice system, fair trial, and we have strong judiciary in Uzbekistan, then we would make laws work. Otherwise, it would never happen, the change. I know that behavioral change needs a time. You cannot change people's mind in 5 years, in 4 years, in 10 years even. Maybe a generation is needed for transition of the behavioral change. But in order to have this trigger, you know, just change it, it should be strict laws. It should be public discourse, and it should be, I don't know, bad, offensive, and not aggressive, but very pushy, this politics, you know. For example, this case, it should be public case, it should be open case, transparent. Everyone had to hear what the victims and what the victim's family, or what the abuser opinion and what the lawyers say. It should be very publicly available. Everyone should see, and it should be severe punishment. I'm not for the punishment, but in this case, I think severe punishment will show that violence against women, domestic violence, it's not just a simple offense. It's not just because of the woman wearing shorts, or because she could not say no to the society. I think this firm action should be taken just to make these laws work, because we have beautiful laws, you know, like we have thousands of laws, hundreds of laws, but they should work.